All right, YouTube, let's get into it. All right, first off, we're going to talk about LeBron James in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, where he had a horrible first half, showed up in the second half, and everyone's talking like, "Oh my God, this was a bad game for LeBron James," and he's falling apart. I mean, that's not the case at all. Okay, yeah, he did have a bad game, but so did Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had a lot of bad games in the playoffs and in the finals, so I'm not even going to hold that against him. All right, but then they say, oh, but and then you have people that say, oh, well, he turned it around. He ended up with 34 points and 6 rebounds and 6 assists or whatever it was, whatever his stat line was. Okay, a lot of those points that he got in the fourth quarter were meaningless points. They were already up by 8, and then by 10, So his points really, I mean, they were easy layups to the basket. And he had one jump shot, and I think maybe one 3-pointer. Other than that, it was all real easy baskets. So I'm not diving too much into it. I mean, LeBron had a decent game. I mean, it wasn't his first half was horrible, but he bounced back. The man of the hour in that game was Kyrie Irving. That man blew up in the third quarter. If it wasn't for Kyrie, I don't think Cleveland wins that game. But Cleveland's easily going to, I think they're going to win Game 5. They're going to, take out Boston and head off, June 1st. It'll be Cleveland and Golden State in the finals. Like everyone predicted July 4th when KD made the announcement that he was going to go to Golden State. Which in one respect, I agree with Stephen A. Smith on this, that was the weakest move a superstar has ever made in NBA history. I mean, he could have gone to the Wizards. He could have gone to the Celtics. He could have gone to the Clippers. He could have gone anywhere and still made a deep run into the playoffs. Hell, he could have stayed with OKC. He didn't want to play with Russ. That's his business, whatever. But he could have gone to a lot of different teams and still made an impact in the NBA and made it to the finals. He knew the only way he was going to beat LeBron is to team up with Draymond and Clay and Steph and Golden State and make it to the Western Conference Finals. He knew that was the only way he was going to beat LeBron James. But I hate to say it, Golden State's just going to be too much for Cleveland, I think. I mean, the way Golden State's playing right now, I really don't see anybody beating them. And if they stay together, if those core 4 players stay on the same team next year, they all resign. If Steph resigns, if KD resigns, it's definitely going to be a dynasty. There's just no getting around that. But I'm really not going to put any weight into KD's ring if they do win the finals, unless he balls out. He has to ball out. He has to be the finals MVP for it to mean anything. Other than that, you just jumped on a bandwagon and rode the coattails of a great team, a 73-9 win team just a year ago, who have been to back-to-back finals, this being their third finals in a row, and the team that beat you when you were up 3-1 on them. So, I mean, he has to be the MVP of the finals for this ring to mean anything and to validate his going to Golden State. Anything less, and he just rode the coattails of Steph Curry and Draymond and them. I stopped watching the playoffs when OKC was beat out because there's no point. Once Oklahoma City was beat out, and Oklahoma City's my team, and that's the only reason why I watched them in the playoffs. But once they were beat out, everyone knew, and even before Oklahoma City was beat, everyone knew from the beginning that it was going to be Golden State and Cleveland. So what was the real point of watching it in the season? There really wasn't one. But something needs to shake up. Adam Silver needs to do something about this because a fan like me, while my team didn't make it very far in the playoffs, I still don't want the season to be predictable. I don't want the playoffs to be predictable. I don't want the finals to be predictable. And that's exactly what they have been this season. And I agree with Stephen A. Smith on this, on this fact too, that the entire NBA finals the entire NBA season has been a joke. I mean, we all knew what it was going to come down to, and it's exactly what's happening. We didn't know the road that was going to get there, but we knew the ending point. We all knew the outcome. We didn't know how it was going to get there, but we knew the outcome. And so Adam Silver and the NBA, they need to reevaluate what they're doing and what they're allowing to happen and do something to create more competition. I mean, hell, if Kevin Durant would have went to Minnesota, you don't think Minnesota would have been a 50-win team and in the playoffs? I guarantee it. With Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins and Kevin Durant, that team, shit. He could have went to Milwaukee. Milwaukee would have been a 50-plus win team and, you know, a 4 or 5 seed in the West in the playoffs. That's a guarantee you add Kevin Durant to that. And they could make a good push in the playoffs too. I mean, they're a strong young team. So the whole Kevin Durant going to Golden State thing, it was weak. And, you know, as an Oklahoma City fan, I hold no ill will towards Kevin Durant. If he wanted to leave, that's his business. You know, he's not happy here playing with Russ. That's fine. Not everybody can play with a player like Russell. And I'm okay with that, you know. But you chose to go to the team that you were up 3-1 on, and you couldn't close the deal. You couldn't close the deal. All right, you were the superstar on this team. You were supposed to be the guy on Oklahoma City, and you couldn't close the deal. And instead, you turn around and you go to the team that you couldn't beat, who ended up beating you and then going on and losing in the finals, but losing in the finals on a last-second shot. I mean, they took it to Game 7 and lost on the last second. So let's not make it out like the Cavs blew Golden State out of the water in the finals. It was a back-and-forth game. And if Draymond doesn't get suspended, Golden State wins the finals last year. So, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, going forward, I hope that the NBA really does look into how to fix this, because fans like me and a lot of fans I know do not like the way the NBA has turned out to be. I mean, it's 2 super teams and the rest of them vying for, you know, crumbs off the table. And, you know, fans like me, we don't like that. All right, but it is, like I said, it is what it is. Now I want to dive into the NFL a little bit. And I want to dive into this Colin Kaepernick situation. Because I'm hearing a lot of this, you know, Colin's being blackballed for his stance, and you know, that's why teams aren't looking at him, and you know, they're holding his social stuff against him. I'm a 49ers fan, and when Colin Kaepernick did what he did, I have to admit, the very first time I saw it, I was mad, you know, as a veteran, you know, from the United States Army, and as an American citizen, I didn't see where that protest was going to go, because in the end, we all talked about his protest and not what he was protesting. So to get your point across, you could have done it a number of different ways. You could have, I mean, being an NFL quarterback, all you got to do is call a local news station, have them come down, and you say you want to hold a press conference. And you start talking about it. You don't just, you know, do what you did. But he did, and that was his right, and so be it. What makes it worse is that he came out this offseason and said that he wouldn't kneel, that he thought he got his point across. Well, now you just look like somebody who wants a paycheck and is willing to do whatever it takes to get a paycheck. And to me, I would have had more respect for Colin Kaepernick had he decided to say, you know what, I'm still going to do it. I mean, whether you like it or not, and if it cost me my career, it cost me my career. But I believe that this is a worthy cause, and I believe that it needs to be done. And, you know, that's that. But he didn't do that. Okay? While he is doing great things for the community and people out there, I applaud him for that. But don't expect people to pick you up just because you're a social warrior. You know, you lost a step. You lost your throwing ability had fallen off. Your accuracy had fallen off. Your gameplay had fallen off. And yes, the 49ers didn't have a great team and you didn't have great weapons around you. But that says more about how bad of a quarterback you are than anything else. Because, I mean, if you look at, you know, quarterbacks like, let's say, Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins doesn't have great talent around him, and he's still a better quarterback than you are. Andrew Luck doesn't have great talent around him, and he's still a better quarterback than you are. He's a more accurate quarterback, and and a more pocket aware quarterback, and so the whole excuse that you didn't have a team around you is why you failed. That's a ridiculous statement in my opinion. Because there are many quarterbacks out there who are better than you who didn't have teams around you. To me, you're a flash in the pan. You're a Tim Tebow type. You had a few good years, and everyone's like, well, he went to a Super Bowl. He took the 49ers to a Super Bowl. And I'm like, no, he didn't take the 49ers to the Super Bowl. That defense took them to a Super Bowl. And the fact that nobody was ready for you. Nobody was ready for you. Now that they got a few years of tape on you and whatever, you're not that good. You're a backup at best. And as of right now, that is why you are, trying to get a backup job at Seattle. Because they run the same kind of offense that you would kind of fit into. Seattle, Carolina, those kind of teams. But nobody else really does. You look at, any of the teams that have mediocre quarterbacks, they don't run that kind of offense. You look at Jacksonville. They don't run the kind of offense that you fit in. You look at somewhere like, like the Rams. You don't fit into that kind of offense. Their offensive scheme. And to be honest, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that, if I went through the whole list of quarterbacks, I think I'd take 90% of them over you. Blake Bortles is a toss-up. But, you start off in the AFC East, and you got Ryan Tannehill. I think I'd take Tannehill over you just because he's more accurate deep. You look at, the Jets really don't have a good quarterback, and you probably fit into that scheme. But the Jets are a time bomb waiting to happen. So, they're a hot mess all the time. So, they're just too dumb to realize that they could use you as a quarterback. But then you look at, Buffalo, they could use you as a quarterback, but, and I don't know their quarterback situation, but Tyrod Taylor's a good quarterback. He may not be as good as you. He may be as good as you. You guys are you're the same kind of quarterback, only, so I don't know that they would necessarily see the point in bringing you in there if they already have a quarterback like you up there. So, and of course, New England, they're not going to, no, they're set at QB. And if you look at, the AFC West, Kansas City picked up a quarterback in the draft. You got Derek Carr in Oakland, which is, a good thing. Denver, and that's the one thing I don't understand is because that's where I think you should go. I think it would be a perfect fit. And I said this from the beginning and to other people that before Jamal Charles actually signed with Denver, I said Jamal Charles and Colin Kaepernick at Denver, and that offense is high-powered again. But for some odd reason, John Elway's not calling him that. And last year he had interest. This year he doesn't. I don't know, but I think Denver would be the best landing spot for you, or Seattle, as a backup role. But this whole notion that you're not getting phone calls, or Colin Kaepernick's not getting phone calls because he is a social warrior, and because of his stance on social injustice, that's why people aren't calling him. You know what? I'm pretty sure that almost every one of these organizations donates money to some cause or another like that, and a lot of these players do the same thing. Hell, even Eric Reed, from the 49ers, knelt with him every single time, every game. It wasn't just Colin Kaepernick. It was Eric Reed, too. But Colin Kaepernick is the one getting all the flack. Eric Reed hasn't caught any flack in any of the media for the exact same thing. So let's not point the finger at his protest when more people protested just like Colin Kaepernick did. But Colin Kaepernick's the only one who isn't on a football team and who hasn't gotten a phone call. And let's remember one more fact about the Colin Kaepernick situation, that he was under contract with the 49ers. And before he even met with John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan, he decided, and it came out in reports that he decided he was going to opt out of his contract and go and seek free agency. Well, the 49ers were moving in a different direction, anyways, and so I doubt that they would have probably kept him on. It was better that he opted out because then they didn't have to pay him that money. But in the end, he chose to opt out of his contract. He chose to make that stance, and he chose the path that he's on. And he has to accept responsibility for that. But pointing the finger at him, his protest, is just another cop-out. It's another excuse for people to be like, oh, well, you can't talk about, racial injustice in this country without people, banishing you or blackballing you or talking negatively about you or whatever, because that's not the case. I mean, because nobody is talking about Eric Reed, okay, and he did it. Nobody is talking about the players who raised their fist in protest. Nobody's talking about the fact that Seattle, excuse me, who agreed with his protest, locked arm in arm and stood as an entire group on the field in the same kind of protest. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody. Everyone is talking about Colin Kaepernick. And that, to me, is ridiculous. That, because he didn't have a job, let's make it about his social stance versus his actual play on the field. And that's what it all boils down to for me. And I don't know. I'm just trying to get my point across that, people need to stop, trying to find these social excuses, like, it was race, or it's, because he took a stance or because he spoke out. Okay. For all those people who believe that this country is like that, you are the problem. Okay, I'm tired of hearing about, and I know I'm a white person, and what the hell do I know about racial injustice, right? The fact that I've been attacked because of my race and because of my job. I don't know anything about that, though, right? But even though it's personally happened to me, I can't speak on the matter because of the color of my skin. Well, that right there is a racial statement. Anytime you focus on race as your first line of defense or your first reason for something to happen, just makes you sound like a racist, because that's the one thing that you focused on before anything else was race. Anytime that somebody says, oh, well, Colin Kaepernick's not getting hired because he's a black man who took a stance against social injustice or whatever, that it's a racial issue. And it's not a racial issue. It's a competent issue. Is he competent enough to play? Is he good enough to be on a football team? Maybe as a backup, but he's not a starter. And even then, you have to look at the situation in the NFL today, okay? Players like Charles Barkley or Charles Oakley, for that matter, or Xavier McDaniel, or these hard-nosed bruiser type physical players in the NBA. They couldn't play in today's NBA because they'd foul out in the first 8 minutes of the game because of the way the NBA is. It's the same thing with the NFL. The NFL has changed. The way they play the game, the way the offense is played, the type of offenses that are run, and Colin Kaepernick doesn't fit that mold anymore. And without a solid defense behind him, he's nothing. And the whole race card thing is ridiculous. And, if I catch a lot of flack for it or whatever, so be it. But I'm really, I'm sick of race being brought into the subject when it comes to sports, because in that locker room, race doesn't matter. No matter how many times you want to say it does or it doesn't, it doesn't matter. You're all on the same team. And race should not play a part in anybody's decision to do anything or for any reason. But maybe I'm just, a stupid white guy who doesn't see the whole world. But from my point of view, race shouldn't play a part in anything. But for those who it does, I feel sorry for you, because that's what you focus on, is the race and not a way to fix the problem, because not everybody is a racist and not everything that happens to you is because of the color of your skin. And for you to point at that is a real problem. That's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow.